got some news related to the Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, which has recently been updated to make the game a little bit easier and less challenging. It's a very controversial thing. I mean, FromSoftware is always known for their difficulties in their games, but the controversy surrounding this DLC was on a whole other level compared to every other game and DLC they released up to this point. This was especially difficult, and there was actually, it was to the point where the game was review bombed on Steam due to this difficulty. Although, it is worth mentioning, there are a lot of people who enjoyed the fact that this was just excruciatingly difficult, even more so than previous FromSoftware titles, and a lot of people were really upset about the idea of them potentially making changes and lowering the difficulty, but that's exactly what they have done. And they announced after this update was released that they plan on making it even easier by nerfing some of the bosses that are extremely difficult. So they're going to make it even easier in future updates. But in this current update, the attack and damage negation curve scaling has been increased for blessing enhancements. I have no idea what the fuck that means. I read that straight from an article. I do not play any of these games, so that's one thing I will admit is that I don't have a clue as to how these games actually work and what's going on. But it is significant in the fact that they are known for not really caving in when it comes to people demanding easier games. For how many years have people said that they want an easy mode or a lower difficulty option for the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring and Demon Souls? Been hearing about this for years and years and years, but they never caved in. And I don't think they ever will release a difficulty option for any of their games. I think that is just like a thing that's part of their identity. But I guess they're like, oh shit, like, we're known. Our reputation is that we make some of the hardest games available. And the fact that we're getting a lot of controversy and blowback, that says that we kind of took it a little bit too far. So we have to make a lot of adjustments. But it's unfortunate, though, because there definitely are a lot of people that enjoyed the way it originally was, even though it was extremely challenging. The nature of the live service and having these content updates is that once you download the update, there is no way to play the original version of the game. You're playing the new version that FromSoftware has decided that everyone should play instead of the original one, unless you have like an original disc and you installed it and you no longer are connected to the internet on your console. That seems to be the only way you can play the original one. I don't know. I'm sure some modders are going to work on a way to restore the original difficulty. I am positive about that. I mean, there are mods that add easy mode and stuff like that. But you having to install a mod and it no longer being the official version of the game definitely takes something away from the experience. My whole thing is this. There are so many other games out there that provide that. And even though I am someone who supports having options and having easy mode and medium mode and hard mode and just allowing people to experience the game however which way they want, these games are unique in the fact that everyone is on a level playing field and everyone has the same gameplay experience. And in my opinion, that is something that adds a lot of value, and that is the reason why Dark Souls has become such a huge mainstay in video game culture. So there are very few games that offer a similar experience. Cuphead is the only one off the top of my head that I can think of. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other ones that are known for just being as hard as possible, being incredibly difficult. I mean, it's an homage to the legacy of video games going back to the NES era, Super Nintendo era. They made these games, they programmed them to all be incredibly difficult in order to increase replayability, and it made people more skilled in their video game skills as a result, because, these games were only a couple hours long because of the limitations of the technology and the lack of the ability to save your game. But as game-saving technology was created so that you can save your progress, and games got longer, and, they just tried to appeal to a more mass market, the vast majority of game developers decided to tone down the difficulty significantly for their games, which has definitely led to an entire generation of gamers with severely diminished skills in playing video games and not being very good at being challenged. But I know as an adult, though, it's really hard to invest in these games. You're going to die a lot. You have to replay the same level over and over and over and over and over again. And if you have wife and kids and that kind of stuff, it's not the best thing. But again, there's so many different other games you could play if you don't want that experience. Literally every other game on the market. We'll see the meltdown that this causes, because there was a lot of people defending FromSoftware and the difficulty of the game. Those people are going to be obviously very upset now that they have completely changed the balancing of the game. I know Tanga, for example, made so many different videos talking, like, pretty much dunking on all the gaming journalists that couldn't beat the game, so they really couldn't give a proper review for it because they didn't really get too far, like, in progress. So now you're going to see it reverse, where all the people that bitched and complained about the game are going to be praising it, and all the people that praised it are going to be bitching and complaining. Although, no, I think that people who bitched and complained before are still going to bitch and complain because they think it should probably still be even easier than it already is. They just keep making it easier and easier and easier, to the point where it defeats the entire purpose of a FromSoftware game, is to provide a serious challenge that many people, I'd say most people, are not really prepared for and aren't willing to do, but that's your option. You have so many different games to play. You choose to play this one, and with that, you should expect to have a very hard time. No hand-holding. That's my opinion. Even though I never played this game before, I just feel like they're pandering a little bit too hard, I think, because the type of people you're catering to lower the difficulty are not the type to play this game anyway, because they still believe it's too difficult, but the people who are like hardcore Souls fans are going to be just pissed off, and you're going to turn them away because they feel like you're pandering. So I don't think anyone wins out of this, personally. I could be wrong, and I will humbly admit that my knowledge, like, on the specifics of these games and how they work is very limited, so I just could be talking out of my ass this entire time. It's possible, but it's just someone from the outside looking in that has no stake in this entire thing. No, I'm not a fan of FromSoftware, but I'm also not someone who is just obsessed over the game being too hard and they need to make it easier, so I'm just kind of a spectator from the outside, giving my opinion on this whole situation. Let me know in the comments, especially if you're someone who played the new DLC, what do you think about the changes and the changes that are to come in the future, and whether or not you think FromSoftware did the right thing here. I'm interested to hear all your thoughts.